Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Welcome to episode 101 of McRae Live. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. The date today is Friday, September the 11th, 2020, 11:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, let's jump right into it, shall we? I debated whether or not I wanted to talk about this because obviously the subject matter is controversial, although there is no real controversy at the end of the day, as some people would argue. But where the controversy lies is in the nuance. And that's not me defending anything. That's me... Well, you'll understand when I talk about this. This should be, I think we can talk about this maturely. We can talk about this without screaming and yelling, although I probably will have a few tirades in there. But certainly, I wanted to come at this from, an informed perspective, like I try to do here on the channel all the time. And I wanted to talk about this because... there is, now I haven't seen the, okay, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the movie Cuties. It's all the rage right now for the wrong reasons. All the rage is probably the right word, actually. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can Google Cuties yourself and figure it out. But of course, this is not a Netflix created movie. This is a Netflix distributed movie. The movie was shot and funded, I believe, without Netflix. Netflix just picked it up to distribute it. And of course, about a month or so ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago, Netflix released a poster for the movie Cuties. And it is essentially about these 11-year-old girls. It's a coming-of-age story. It's a French film. So if you were to watch it on Netflix, I would assume you would have to watch it subtitled. Maybe you could watch it dubbed. I don't know if they've gone that far. I know some foreign shows and movies on Netflix do have the dubbing option. You can watch it with English dub, which I had to do with Dark, by the way. I ordinarily will always watch subtitles, but with a show like Dark, it was so intense, and the subject matter was, I love Dark. I love that fucking show. But it was so intense. The subject matter was so intense that I found myself, I didn't want to spend a lot of time reading. You know what I mean? I wanted to kind of just pay attention. So I had to kind of do the dubbed version with Dark. But 99% of the time, I don't. Anyway, so Netflix released this Cuties poster of these very sexualized, provocative positions that these 11-year-old girls were in. Needless to say, that didn't go over very well. Why would it? I saw the poster. I thought it was fucking disgusting. Here's the thing. This movie won Sundance Film Festival. This movie, the vast majority of critics on Rotten Tomatoes like it. It's got like 80-something%. But yet the critic rating is like 6% or 3%. Or sorry, the audience rating, is like 3%. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, what am I missing here? Because it's so extreme, I have to be missing something. Because most of the outrage, and rightly so, is coming from people who have never seen the movie and are just, again, focusing on the sexualized marketing material. And I get it. I understand it. I saw the poster and I thought that's fucking disgusting. I don't have any children, but if I had, an 11-year-old girl or boy, there's no way in fucking hell that I would give the okay. It's okay, little Julie. You go ahead and pose like Madonna from 85. That's okay. The fuck are you doing? These parents need to be slapped in the face. But I thought to myself, I have to be missing something here. It can't be this insane. Oh, it can be. It won Sundance Film Festival. How can this movie win Sundance Film Festival? I don't get it. What am I missing? Well, I haven't seen the movie. It just dropped on Netflix yesterday. They still went ahead and dropped it, despite the backlash of the poster and all that kind of shit. Ballsy, Netflix, ballsy. So I read up a lot on it because I really don't want to fucking watch it. I don't need to see 11-year-old girls twerking or however the fuck you say it. I don't even know how they fucking say it properly. And I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. Twerking, whatever it is. I know what the act is, and I certainly don't need to see it. I don't need to see it. Nobody does. So I read up a lot on this movie yesterday. And the thing that fucking frustrates me about this is that it sounds like there might be a very important message in that movie. When I'm reading what it's all about and the subject matter and the narrative in terms of the message of the film, I think to myself, well, yeah, I mean, if I was just reading this blurb, I'd think, well, that's an important thing. That's an important message, you know? And I don't think there's a parent out there that would deny that, well, yeah, that's important. But it's the presentation. We don't need to see 11-year-old girls twerking, whatever the fuck it is. We don't need to see it. I don't need to see it. And there was a clip that was released online. It was like 1 minute and 40 seconds. I watched 30 seconds of it. I felt gross. I felt disgusted watching this thing. And the thing that frustrates me the most is that you have the director and the writer and the producers and everybody saying, and people who say, yeah, but it's not, no, yeah, but it's not like that. It's not, I mean, there's more, it's just not like that. It's not, yeah, but when you put fucking 11-year-old girls in little fucking tights who are not, they're not just, it's not listen, beauty pageants are bad enough, right? We can all agree. Beauty pageants, John A. Ramsey, it's bad enough. But when you have 11-year-old children that are going, and grabbing their crotch and spreading their legs. What the fuck are you doing? You can still have a movie about the real hardcore message of the film that you're trying to get through. And for those of you that may not have read about this, you need to read about it. But the problem is that it gets lost. It gets lost. Now, this is nowhere near the same comparison, okay? But take Black Christmas 2019, all right? I mean, it's night and day here. It's not the same thing. But hopefully you'll see the principle of what I'm trying to say. So here you have Black Christmas 2019. They get rid of anything that's related to Black Christmas at all. And it's a total reimagining. But it is so on the nose. Somebody said, it's not a movie with a political message. It's a political message with a movie attached to it. Because that's what it is, right? It's the other way around. So anything that may have been good in that movie gets lost because you're hammering people on the face. Maybe there is something there that's pretty good. Maybe there is. Maybe there is when you weed through it all and you look at Black Christmas and you're like, well, yeah, maybe, yeah. But when you're going ding, 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 like this on people's face, nobody sees that. It gets lost. It gets lost. And the point is to have it as subtext. We're talking about Black Christmas 2019 here, if you've just tuned in. So when you look at Cuties, and again, I've never seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I'm not going to watch it. But what frustrates me as a filmmaker and as an artist and as somebody who works in the industry is I look at this and I go, you know, fuck, it's gone. It's gone. I mean, maybe it will do fine in France because it's a French film and obviously it's a little bit of a different culture. I'm not talking about they're into pedophilia. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe it's played better over there because more people have seen it and because the poster, the French poster, wasn't like the Netflix poster. The French poster just looked like a fucking Stand By Me kind of poster. It was fine. Totally fine. And if I had just seen that poster, I would have watched the movie and didn't know what it is. I would have, okay, this is interesting. But Netflix, in typical American style, Hollywood style, the over-sensationalized, sexualized style, puts fucking these 11-year-old children in sexualized poses. I'm like, what the fuck? Who? It goes past somebody's desk. Here it is. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Let's do that. What are you doing? If that comes across your desk, you're going to look at that and go, well, we can't do this. We can't do that. What the fuck are we doing? Look at this. I don't even need to know what Cuties is about. There doesn't even need to be controversy. I could be jogging down the street and see that fucking, and I've never seen it before in my life. I've never heard of it before in my life. And I could see that fucking poster on a bus shelter, and I would know instantaneously that that is fucking wrong. I don't need to go, oh, well, I don't need to do that. And it's frustrating because when you actually dive into it and you read about it, it's frustrating because you look at it, you go, you know, you might have had a really important message here. But because you decided to show it rather than just kind of imply it and focus more on the drama and the relationship between the young girl and her mother and how she doesn't fit in and she wants, and that's a big focus apparently, but just imply certain things rather than show anything. Don't show anything, just imply that maybe she's getting into shit she shouldn't be getting into, and we see the end result of that through her dramatic performances. That would play well because we can fill that in. We can fill that in. We don't need to see 11-year-old girls twerking, whatever it is, fucking boom, boom, boom. We don't need to see that. You can tell us that that's what she's gone off to do, and we as an audience can be like, oh, fuck, man. No, girl, no, don't do that. You know? And then we can see her return home, you know, maybe not feel, you know, just, and we don't need to see it. And then your message becomes so much more important then. And then maybe, just maybe, it doesn't get lost. But now it's lost. You've hit the point of no return now. Because I've read a lot about this movie. And it's so unfortunate that you've had to, and listen, there are people that have seen this and say, well, it's not that bad. I think what you mean is that it's not a movie where every 5 seconds there's 11-year-old girls twerking. No. But I saw a 1:45 clip of them twerking, for which I only watched 30 seconds of. And that is 1:45 too much. I don't care if there's only a minute of that in the movie or not. They're doing it. Now, somebody like me or you are going to watch 30 seconds of that and be like, oh, I can't fucking watch this. I feel like I need to fucking go light myself on fire. I feel like what I just watched was wrong. But there are guys out there that are going, yeah, they're going to buy all the Blu-rays of this fucking movie. Yeah, little girls. Why would you do that? We as an audience don't need to see it. You write a script, you imply it. We don't need to see it because it's the dramatic performances, it's the ramifications, it's the residual effects that we can see through this little girl's performance that tells us everything we need to know. We don't need to actually see them doing it. I would not have felt, what the fuck was going on that movie? But I would not have felt right auditioning girls for that. I would not have felt right producing that movie. I would not have felt right directing girls in that scene. Of course, you have a woman who's doing it. And it frustrates me. But this is not something that should be okay ever at all. I remember watching the 1994 film, I think it is, The Professional, Leon, right? Natalie Portman's first movie. Remember that film? Great fucking movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great movie. Natalie Portman's first movie. Gary Oldman's in it as well. Great fucking movie. You guys remember that movie? It was great. It was great. I remember when I first watched that movie, and even watching it today, the relationship between Leon and Natalie Portman's character. It's not, I mean, it's not like they have a relationship, but there is a bond there. And it kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable at times. It's the kind of relationship that, like, you believe he wouldn't do anything at that point. But as soon as she turns of age, do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that was the writer's intent, but that's a movie where there's, you know, it just frustrates me. We should never, and who are these parents allowing this? Who are these parents allowing this? The point of the professional example was to kind of say that that's how you do it. If you were to imply something strange or something that might brew down the road in an awkward, you imply it. It's not like we see, you know, now I don't know if any, okay, now here's the thing that really ticks me off, okay? I don't know. That's right. Gypsy Warrior says Leon rejects her advances. He's a father figure. That's right. That's right. But that's how it's done in a lot of ways. The thing that now I've read, and I don't know if this is true. And if this is true, I remember reading this and thinking, what? How is this? What? One of the girls in the movie, apparently in a, you know, it's during a scene at home or something. I don't know. She's dancing in front of her friend or something. And I stand to be corrected because I've not seen the film. And I don't know if this is exactly how it plays out or not. But apparently one of the girls lifts up her tube top to expose her breast. Or, I mean, she probably doesn't have any breasts because she's 11. Although there are some 11-year-olds out there that obviously, you know, flourish early, of course. But judging by the poster, they don't all look developed yet. And now I don't know if that is true, but I read that and I thought to myself, are you fucking kidding me? How is this okay? They're 11. You know, and there are people in this world that I do believe that are trying to push pedophilia into a preference. Oh, it's just a preference. I just prefer 10-year-olds. Fuck you. Fuck you. It's not a preference. It's a sickness. It's not a preference. And that's not the kind of world that I want to live in. That it becomes socially acceptable. And these things are insidious, by the way. They don't just happen overnight. They don't just happen overnight. Where it becomes socially acceptable that no, pedophilia, no, he just prefers, you know, 9-year-olds. Fuck off. And again, it pisses me off because we all want to protect our children. We all want to make sure that kids are safe. You know, we all want to make sure that they get the proper education and the proper, you know, influences, you know, and the proper, you know, being exposed to the proper things. And when, you know, when you have the other side of the Cuties story, which is apparently really good, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is the article here. This, I believe, is from, what is this from? Variety. Netflix defends Cuties as social commentary against sexualization of young children. That's a good thing, right, Netflix? But here's the problem. You have at least I saw 30 seconds of a minute and 47-second clip of 11-year-old girls actually being sexual on stage. We don't need to see that for this message to be hammered home. I want to give myself, I think my audio was off there for a second. Should be on now. We don't need to see that for this message to be hammered home. Why do we need to see it? We can imply it. We can see her like, go out on stage or something, or she's getting nervous or whatever, right? Or she feels like she's, and that's it. We don't need to see that. We don't need, focus on the residual effects. Nobody needs, but come on. Netflix, amid a backlash over the sexualized portrayal of children and recently released drama Cuties, is encouraging critics to watch the movie, which it says makes a statement about pressures young girls face in conforming to social role models of female sexuality. I have no doubt. That's a good thing. I read that and I think to myself, well, that's good. That would make a good documentary. That would make a good narrative, but we don't need to show it. Like, do you need to show it? The only thing I can think of, if you're not a fucking pedophile yourself, which imagine the director is, and it's based on her life and her experiences, okay, that you want to shock us. You want to do this to us. You want us to be so repulsed that we get, that we're so angry that there's little girls that are doing this. Yeah, but the problem is that it's a movie. It's a fiction. It's a narrative. It's a live action. It's not a documentary. So we're not looking at it that way. Nobody's shocked by it. We're shocked that you're showing it. We're not shocked by, like, if it was a documentary and you'd snuck in somewhere and you saw these little girls on stage, we'd be going, oh my God. Oh, wow. It's a different context. It's a different mind frame. That's awful. Holy shit. But this was planned. This was pre-planned. These girls auditioned. Somebody was directing them to do this. And when you're 11 years old, you don't understand what the fuck you're doing. Your brain develops until you're 25 years old. This is a fact, not my opinion. Do you remember being 11 years old? I barely do. These girls have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They're just in a movie, and they get to put on pretty things. These girls haven't the cognitive ability to understand what the hell this means. And by all accounts, some of the other clips I've seen that were not sexualized, they're fucking talented little girls. Really talented. Great performance. That's where the focus should be. It should be all about that, and then leave the sexualized, the actual event, or leave it implied. Leave it implied. You can totally do that. You don't need to show it. You don't need to show it. Especially when they're 11. Like, if they were like 16, 11? Jesus, man. The movie, which is rated TV MA for language, I think it's probably rated a little more than that, or that for a little more than language, centers on Amy, an 11-year-old Senegalese? I'm probably not saying that right. Senegalese girl living in Paris who joins a free-spirited dance clique. Okay, cool, right? Like, we read that, okay, cool. A little, 11-year-old girl joins this dance clique, okay, called the Cuties, okay, to rebel against what she perceives as her family's oppressive mores. Okay, well, but here's, okay. But again, we don't need to see it. We don't need to see it. We don't need to see it. After its September 9th release on Netflix, Cuties has elicited outrage for showing the girls performing highly sexualized dance routines and depicting the characters in other sexual situations. That's the problem, Netflix. That's the issue. Yeah, but if you just watch it, but it doesn't matter. It gets lost. It's lost in translation, man. It doesn't matter. That's the problem. Nobody is going to sit there and argue that the message that is lost isn't a good message. Nobody's arguing that. Nobody's saying that girls should be sexualized. Nobody's saying that. It's the presentation. You ever heard the expression, it's not what you say, it's how you say it? It's the presentation. And it's backfiring. You probably thought, the filmmakers, Netflix, maybe thought, hey, will make this so uncomfortable that the audience will be, they'll get it. And listen, is it the most awkwardly uncomfortable movie ever made dealing with kids? Well, I haven't seen the movie. There's a couple of movies I saw growing up. No, there's films out there that are, you know, a little strange. And it pisses me off because we all want kids to be safe. And the moral and the message of this movie might be a very good one, but it's getting lost in complete translation because of this unnecessary unnecessary sexualized scenes of 11-year-old girls. And if I had an 11-year-old girl, she wouldn't be on. What was the audition? Okay, can you shake your bum? Bum, 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 bum. I don't get it. The backlash has included an online petition calling on Netflix customers to cancel their subscription over Cuties and other disturbing content about kids on the service. On Twitter, hashtag cancel Netflix, was a top trending topic Thursday in response to Cuties. Children. Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children, a Netflix spokesperson said in a statement to Variety. That's a good thing, but it's getting lost because you have 11-year-old girls twerking on stage, spreading their legs. And that's all people see. It's unnecessarily extreme. You can show the 11-year-old girl in her outfit, right? Here's how you do it. You show the 11-year-old girl in her outfit. Oh, that 11-year-old girl shouldn't be wearing that, right? We know that, right? But she's just in her outfit, right? By all accounts, if we didn't know any better, she could be going to gymnastics, right? But she's in this outfit or something, right? It's a little more, that's kind of, you know, and then she goes out the door. We don't need to see it. We don't need to see it. Focus on the residual effects when she comes back on both sides of the coin. You know, and anyways, I'm repeating myself, but it's so unnecessary. It's an award-winning film. It is. And a powerful story about the pressure young girls face on social media and from society more generally growing up. And we'd encourage anyone who cares about these important issues to watch. Fuck you. We'd encourage anyone who cares. What are you saying that, oh, come on, if you really cared, you'd watch this. Get out of here. I hate that shit. If you really cared, now they're not necessarily saying that, but it feels like that. We encourage anyone who cares to watch it. I don't need to. I don't need to because I do care. And I understand that I don't want to watch little girls doing that. Are you saying that? No, you have to watch little girls doing that because then that'll make you angry. No, it makes me, no, it's not a documentary where somebody snuck in and is seeing this organically unfold. This is a pre-planned, laid out, live action narrative. These are actors. You are getting them to do this at a young age where they shouldn't be doing this. It's unnecessary. Cuties, I don't know how to say that in French, premiered at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival, where writer-director Maya won the World Cinema Dramatic Directing Award. In a 6-minute segment accompanying the film on Netflix, the director says that in performing research for the film, her feature directorial debut, she met with hundreds of preteens to understand how they perceived their femininity in today's society. Can't girls be fucking girls? You know, like I understand that when you get to a certain age, when you start hitting 11 or 12, listen, you know, your body begins to go through changes. Guys too, right? You know, we remember it. You know, your body, I get it. But it just seems like, it just seems like, what did you do? Did you rip them away from the playground and start having very adult conversations with them? It just seems like, come on, man, like, fuck. Our girls see that the more a woman is sexualized on social media, the more she's successful. Well, yes, that's probably true, even if they don't consciously realize it. But then again, they're 11 years old. She says in Why I Made Cuties, and yeah, it's dangerous. So she acknowledged it's dangerous. Well, in terms of the what they see on social media. Amy, the film's protagonist, is navigating between two models of femininity, the director says. One represented by her Muslim mother's traditional beliefs and the other by the Cuties dance squad. Amy, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that, okay, so she's being pulled here, pulled there. I like that, right? I like that. Who's going to argue that the message is bad? It's the delivery. It's the package, man. It's the package. Amy believes she can find her freedom through that group of dancers and their hypersexualization. But is that really true freedom? Especially when you're a kid? Of course not, the director says. Born and raised in Paris in a, again, Senegalese family. I put my heart into this film because this is my story. According to the conservative American advocacy group, the Parents Television Council, which said it reviewed the film Cuties, is objectionable because of its overt sexualization. Let me try that again. According to the conservative American advocacy group, the Parents Television Council, which said it reviewed the film, Cuties is objectionable because of its overt sexualization of the child characters. That, the PTC alleged, eclipses the implicit message about the dangers of social media and how sexual images in popular culture negatively affect kids. I haven't read this article yet. I haven't read this particular article yet. That's exactly what I've been saying. That's exactly what I've been saying. The PTC says that in addition to the girls' sexualized dance routines and costumes, one scene shows Amy pulling down her underwear to photograph her genitals and then posting it on social media. So now I doubt we see her genitals, her vagina. I doubt we see it. Although who knows? But even the fact that you're having an 11-year, like, I feel it's not the same way. Okay, you know what? I'll get to the end of the article here. Okay. Earlier in the scene, she tries to seduce her adult cousin to get out of trouble for stealing his mobile phone. At another point, Amy is browbeaten by her new Cuties friends in an attempt to take a picture of a boy's penis in a school bathroom. She fails. Although there is a danger that little girls will be attracted to this film, the far greater risk is the way this film normalizes the sexualization of little girls, PTC program director Melissa Henson, said in a statement Thursday, adding that Netflix is desensitizing millions of viewers at home by asking them to be entertained by it. The latest backlash comes after Netflix released a promotional poster for Cuties in August depicting its young cast members in provocative poses. The company apologized for the inappropriate artwork and said it was not representative of the film. Well, it's representative of, yes, it is. It may not be the entire picture, but it's the themes, and I tell you, there's a 1 and 47-second clip that I could have watched the whole thing of. And that's all that stands out, and it's unfortunate. Netflix did itself a disservice with the misleading marketing, which stirred up a right-wing campaign against the movie. New York contributor Richard Brody wrote of the film. The subject of Cuties isn't twerking, I guess how you say it. It's children, especially poor and non-white children, who are deprived of the resources, the education, the emotional support, the open family discussion to put sexualized media and pop culture into perspective, he wrote. The film, according to Brody, tells the story of a girl's outrage at and defiance of a particular order. Well, listen, Brody, that's probably true. All of that is probably in the narrative. But you're still sexualizing 11-year-old children, and it's planned because it's not a documentary where you've snuck in to see this. This is written this way. No, but we need to no, you don't. You don't need to do that because it's having the opposite effect. You can imply it. You don't need to show it. This is one article I hadn't read yet, although most of the information here I read on other articles, except for a couple of things there that I had said. It's frustrating to me You know, it's the same thing that I felt, and this is not the same thing, but I don't know, maybe, and obviously it doesn't matter what age you are, so this is not the same thing, but it's in the same, it's the same feelings I have. I don't want to be seeing children doing adult things. You know, it's like how I mentioned this before, that movie, The Good Boys, I think it's called, that comedy by Seth Rogen, came out last year or the year before. And I'm not saying it's not genuinely funny. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that children, kids who are 11, 12, don't... Listen, I was 11 and 12 too. Okay, I was out on the fucking playground saying, fuck you, man, come on, fuck pussy. Yeah. Oh, I wonder what a pussy looks like. Yeah, I was 12 and 13 too. Yes, we say that. But as a 41-year-old man, when I watched the Good Boys trailer, it felt weird to me seeing like that young of kids, like 12, 13, 11, you know, saying those things, talking like they're fucking my age. It was like, I don't want to see this. Like, it felt awkward for me. Like, I would never go into my son's room. I don't have any kids, but I would never go into my son's room, who's 12, and be like, hey, son, so did you kick that pussy's ass? You know, I wouldn't speak to him that way. So why would I watch a movie with 12-year-old kids speaking like that? It feels strange to me. It feels awkward to me. I'm a 41-year-old man. If I was 14 or 12 or 13, I'd be all over that movie. But I find it weird that these adult men are like, oh, it's a great movie. Yeah, watch it, laughing at these kids, you know, saying all these sexual things. It's like, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to me. It's not about, you know, and, you know, I got people saying, but Dave, that's how kids, I know. It's not, I'm not arguing they don't say that, but I don't need to see it. If you had a 12-year-old kid, would you walk into your 12-year-old kid's room and start talking to him like that? No, but you'd pay money to see a movie where it's just about these kids talking like that. It's strange to me. And maybe it's just me, but it's strange. Now, that's not the same thing as Cuties, but it's the same thing in the sense of that they shouldn't, I don't want to see this. You know, I don't want to see this. It doesn't feel right to me. That's what I mean. And it's really unfortunate because there might be a very important message in that movie. And by all accounts, it sounds like there is. But I don't care if the sexualization of these 11-year-old girls is 4 minutes of a 90-minute movie. It's 4 fucking minutes too long. I don't care. It's not about how much is in it. It's about that it's in it at all. Do you not understand that? That's what it's about. It's not about how much of it. Listen, I can serve you a shit pizza, or I can serve you a shit slice of pizza. Well, it's not a shit pizza. It's just a shit slice of pizza. You're still eating shit. You're still eating shit. It's still poo. That's the point. It's not about how much of it is in there. It's that it's in there at all. And like I said, you know, I tried to look at this as objectively as possible. And and look, I acknowledge there could very well be a very good message in that movie. We all want to protect our children. And I'm not here to suggest that the director of the movie or the producer of the movie or even Netflix, you know, but certainly the director, because they're the ones that she wrote it, she directed. I don't know her. I'm not saying that she wants to harm children. But I don't think she thought this through for global appeal. And I'm sorry, but when you're writing a movie like this, and why would Netflix not just use the French poster and take the French off of it and just put Cuties? What, I mean, that's a rhetorical question because I fucking know why. It's just so unbelievable that we live in a world where there are brain dead fucking morons working in positions of power. It's unbelievable. I think everybody in this chat room would agree that if you saw that come across your desk, you wouldn't, like I said, I don't even know I could be out jogging and see that poster on a bus shelter, having never heard of the movie or seen anything about it in my life, and I would know instantly that was wrong. I would come home and, say to my girlfriend, be like, there's a fucking weird poster out there that just is so, you know what I mean? We all know this. We all know this. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. So, again, it's unfortunate because it sounds like, by all accounts, there is an important message buried in there. And I'm all for that. Yeah, I'm all for the protection of kids and the desexualization of kids. But your message, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Excuse me. I am Canadian and not French. But speaking to the director, unfortunately, your message, it hasn't been lost on everyone. And I think most people who see, now again, I haven't seen the movie, but I think most people who have seen the movie I've watched a couple of videos of people who have seen it, who have said kind of the same thing that I am. And I agree with that. It's unfortunate because there probably is a powerful message there, but it's getting lost. It's getting lost in translation. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Because you should never sexualize underage children like that. Ever. Ever. These are not high school kids. These are preteens. What's next? Preteens? Like 7 or 8-year-olds? Hey, you laugh. You might think it's crazy, but these things are insidious. And before you know, boom, all of a sudden, there it is. It's little fucking 5-year-olds going, look at the beauty pageants, for Christ's sakes. It's just wrong. It's unnecessary. And the impact you wanted it to have is having the opposite effect because it's a live action written narrative. It's not a documentary. Documentary probably would have been better. Would have been better. Let's go over to see what you guys are saying before I fucking just keep repeating myself because I'm so fucking, it's unbelievable to me. Joanna from Canada sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Joanna. I saw it. When I was young, I knew girls who wanted to act older and sexy the same way. 100%. 100%. Oh, yeah, for sure. It is about one girl who struggles with her self-identity and being popular. If they didn't show it, the message would not be as effective. Joanna follows up with, says, you should watch the movie first. I didn't love it, but I understood it. It is shocking, but it is realistic. I witnessed friends acting like this in the 80s at around 11 years old, believe it or not. Well, Joanna, I appreciate you saying that, but I'm going to disagree with you. I don't need to see the movie to know that 11-year-old girls should not be sexualized on film. And, I have been saying this whole time that the message that you've just talked about there, I do believe is in the movie. I don't need to see the movie to know that I believe you. I believe that it's there, 100%. But I don't believe there is any situation where we need to sexualize 11-year-old girls. We don't need to do that. And you can say, well, it wouldn't be as shocking. But it's being shocking for all the wrong reasons. It's having the opposite effect that it would otherwise, the director and the producers and Netflix wanted it to have. Because you're seeing because children, the problem, Joanna, is that little kids, and they are little kids, are not cognitively developed enough to understand what they are doing. They understand on a surface level. I'm in this movie where I'm dancing and there's these really important themes that these adults are telling me about. But they're not of an age where you can truly understand what's going on. And I'm not saying that little children are dumb. I'm not saying these kids are dumb. That's not what I'm saying. But I do not believe that there is any reason at any point in time to sexualize these 11-year-old girls like I was seeing in that clip. They weren't just putting sexy things on. They were spreading their legs and touching their vaginas. They were grabbing their crotches. They were doing this. They were shaking their bums. They're not 18-year-olds pretending to be 11-year-olds. They're 11-year-olds. They're actually 11-year-old children. And I don't believe there is any situation where that is appropriate. I don't think that's right at all. I believe that you can write a story and have it very impactful, very meaningful, without showing that. I know you can do that. So I agree with you. I do believe that there is a message there that is very important because I've read up on it all. I've been doing that these last couple of days, reading everything I can on it, reading what is it, what's it about, all this stuff and the details that are in it. I've listened to the director. I've listened to Netflix. I've watched a few people who've seen it, like yourself, right? And I agree with you. I have no doubt. There is a very important message in that movie. 100%. I'm with you. Like we're there. But I disagree that you needed to have the sexualization of 11-year-old children in order for the movie to work. And we needed to show that in the ways that they did. I don't think that's true. I don't believe that's true. I think there are other better ways to do it. But I appreciate you supporting the channel, Joanna, and you are a great supporter as always. Jeff Harris sends in a $9.99 super chat and says, this movie is Roman Polanski's wet dream. Yeah. Also, congrats on completing your goal for It's Me, Billy. Thank you so much, Jeff. I changed my username from Filmatic to my real name to just be myself. Keep it up. All right. Hey, Filmatic, Jeff. Awesome. Joanna from Canada says, I was a young girl. I witnessed this behavior. I experienced this. It is not to be compared to The Good Boys. It is not a comedy. Joanna, I was not talking about it being compared. Again, I thought I was clear when I said that I am not comparing The Good Boys to Cuties. What I am saying is that the feeling I get watching Good Boys and hearing what's it, I get the same feeling. Like, I don't need to see this. I don't want to watch this. I made it very clear that you cannot compare The Good Boys and Cuties. They're two very different subject matters. And again, we have to instill a bit of nuance here and understand what I'm saying. I am not saying that there isn't an important message in this movie, but if it gets lost in translation to the vast majority of the movie-going audience, who fucking cares? Nobody cares. Right? It's all about what is the best way to execute our message so it doesn't get lost in translation. It's like in Black Christmas from 2019. Maybe there was a really good message there. Maybe there was. But if you're beating people over the head with it, it gets lost and nobody focuses on that. We can all agree here that nobody wants the sexualization of children. But it's very important that it's handled in a classy way and not in that way. Because you also have to remember too that you walk a fine line in terms of what is legal as well when you do that in film. Cobra Dojo says, "Hey Dave, do you think this crap will win an Oscar?" I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. I have no idea. I really have no idea. Joanna from Canada follows up with says, Dave, the girls are acting and being directed. I am saying this kindly, but I could appreciate your opinion more if you actually watch the movie even, okay, Joanna, I don't need to see the movie to know that the sexualization of underage girls is inappropriate. I'm not talking about the message of the movie. I don't need to see that. I watched a 30-second clip that was that was a minute and 47 seconds long, and it made me feel very uncomfortable by watching the girls pose, grab their vaginas, lick their fingers, doing all these. It made me very uncomfortable because they're 11-year-old children. I don't need to see the movie to know that I shouldn't be seeing that. I don't want to see that. That doesn't mean that the moral and the message of the movie is not an important one and is not very important, everything else that goes on. I have acknowledged here several times that I agree with you. I believe that if I were to watch, and I do believe this, that if I were to watch the movie, everything outside of that, I would wholeheartedly agree is very important, very, very well done, because I've read a lot on the movie and into details of what it all entails. I haven't just, bought into confirmation bias and groupthink and just read, headlines and Facebook comments, as a lot of people do. No. I did my due diligence, as I always do on this channel, and I read deep into what this movie is about and what the director's intentions are and where it came from and her history growing up as a young girl and how she experienced this in her life and how she wanted to translate that onto screen. And I've read it all. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Like, I like the intention behind it. But I don't think it's appropriate at any given time to put girls in sexualized positions. And even more so, of course, when it is fictional, when it's acting. Yes, it's acting and they're being directed to do it, but I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's appropriate at all. They're 11 years old, and we'll have to agree to disagree. And you can say that you would respect my opinion more if I saw the movie. That's fair. But my opinion would not change on the focus of what I'm talking about. I'm not going to watch the movie and go, okay, I totally love this scene now with these 11-year-old girls shaking their asses. No, I'm never going to like that. I will always think that's unnecessary because of how I feel about that kind of thing and how I know that when you are writing a movie, you don't have to show that. I know why they did. Listen, it's not lost on me. I know why they did. I know why it's in there. I know it's supposed to be shocking. I know that. It's supposed to make you go, oh, of course. I know why it's there, but it's unnecessary because they're 11. They are underage. And it may not have made you feel uncomfortable because you are a woman and you have a different perspective than me and you can relate to it sort of on a first-hand kind of basis, right? I remember girls like that. Hey, listen, I remember girls like that too. But I remember girls like that when I was 11. And seeing girls like that when I'm 11 and they're 11 doesn't affect me. As a 41-year-old man, it makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable to watch scenes like that. And you can say, well, that's the idea. Yes, but it gets lost in translation because these are young actors who we are sexualizing unnecessarily. They're doing all these things that are not, you are exploiting these 11-year-old actors to tell your story, but you don't need to do that to hammer home the important message that's in the film. And when you take that risk, when you get out there and you take that risk by presenting these young girls in this way, this is the risk you run. There are some people that are probably going to be okay with it. But I think most people are going to go, I'm not okay with seeing that. I'm not okay with seeing 11-year-old girls on a poster. Like, it's wrong. It's wrong. And it's unnecessary. So I appreciate your support as always, Joanna. You're a great supporter in the channel. And but I don't need to see the movie to know that I will not feel any differently about that side of it. I agree with you that all the other stuff and all the other important stuff in that movie, I have no doubt I would say, I like that. That's really good. That's a good message. But unfortunately, the package it's being delivered in and what's going out there now, it's lost. It's lost. Maybe not lost on everybody, obviously not, but it gets lost. And that's the risk you take. Appreciate your support though, Joanna. You are awesome as always. Let me see here. We have Jay Camacho says, kids should not be exploited. I agree. I don't think I would feel the same way if I was watching two kids two 11-year-old kids begin to make out and undress and start to have sex for the first time. Now, maybe you don't actually see the act taking place, obviously, like you would in like, an adult, two actors who are adults and having this love scene. But I would feel uncomfortable even kind of seeing that. It's just, it's not, I don't want to see that. And it's having the opposite effect, I think, on most people. I think maybe this movie should have been a documentary, perhaps. But like I said, and like I've said from the very beginning, it pisses me off because I do believe there is good in this movie. I do believe that there's an underlining message here that is probably really fucking good. And I would watch the movie and go, that's a great message. Damn, man, yeah. But, look what's happened. Look what's happened. Let me see here. Jay Camacho follows up with, we need to bring Jesus back to the classroom. Let's leave religion out of it, folks. Let's leave religion out of it. I couldn't care less whether Jesus came back or not. Let me see. Nick P was here, says, guaranteed this was created by the same type that gets mad at dudes scoping her out in revealing outfit, guaranteed. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not here to get into the whole sort of move my chair over here. I'm not here to get into the what do I want to say? I'm not here to get into deep into, I just feel very, it's, again, and it's more to do with the idea of what is the best approach to, and again, this may not fall, although it may, because anyway, I'm just going to repeat myself by saying that. Let me see here. Gypsy Warrior says, I thought Kubrick taught us this was wrong back in 62 with Lolita. Well, yeah, that's a little bit different, but I do know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying, for sure. Let me see here. Joanna says, I don't know who you guys think I am, but I'm not supporting young girls being exploited, but this behavior is real. I saw it firsthand and it was a deep struggle. Yeah, who's saying that Joanna is supporting young girls being exploited? I mean, I certainly did not say that, and hopefully nobody in the chat room is suggesting that either. Joanna is a great supporter of the channel. She's seen the movie. She's had experience with this firsthand, and she is expressing her thoughts and opinions and views, and we welcome it, and that's awesome to see. So hopefully nobody in the chat is suggesting that you are okay with exploiting young girls, because Joanna, we know you're not. I mean, we know that you are definitely not. But you've seen the movie, you have your thoughts, and you are expressing them in a mature and adult way, and that's the way to do it. So, Joanna, you are okay in my book, girl. Steve McCoy says, the point you are making about the movie is kind of the same as athletes kneeling during the anthem to protest social injustice. Their message is getting lost because of it. Well, I guess the principle of what you're saying is the same. I think you can point to this kind of thing all around in some ways, that if you are, it's very important that if you have a very important message, that your package and how you present that message is just as important as the message itself. And if it gets lost in translation, or if there's even one moment where somebody can exploit that, no pun intended, but take that and sort of run with it, I mean, the thing that did this movie in was the Netflix poster. If they had taken the French poster and just used that as the Netflix poster, but took the French text off and put the English text on, which I'm sure they could have done, then more people would before seeing what they saw. Now, I probably, if I had watched the movie, see, this is the thing. Let's say there was no Netflix poster. And let's say there was no, and they had just used the French poster, right? Nobody was, and was this movie. And I probably would have watched the movie and felt the exact same way that I know I would have felt if I watch it now. I would have watched the movie and thought, and I know this. And it's not that, listen, I was 11 too, right? I knew 11-year-old girls that were into that kind of shit. that were like, I mean, times have changed a little bit since the 80s, but certainly, in early 90s, but certainly, because I was 11 in 1990. So, it was more into New Kids on the Block than it was twerking. But nonetheless, there was still that kind of thing there. It's all relative. But even if there was no Netflix backlash or poster, and I had just popped that on, and it was unassuming, nobody was talking about this, I would have felt this. I would have felt the same way about it then as I know I would feel now. I would have watched that movie. I would have been totally into the underlining message of that. I think is thumbs up, very important, right? The non-sexualization of girls. Yep, I'm totally on board with that. I would have been into the performances. I would have been like, wow, this is really good. This is really good drama. Yes, totally on board. And I still would have been like, when it got to the girls twerking and dancing and trying to come on to her brother or her friend's older brother, whatever, or the taking picture of her vagina. No one's denying that girls don't do that, or there aren't girls that do that. Nobody's denying that. But I think we don't need to see it to know that it exists in that way. You can present it in you can present it in other ways that are still just as effective. I'm telling you, yes, you can. You don't need to exploit 11-year-old girl actors in order to get the message across. And I think it's very important that it's like gore, right? And again, but understand the principle of what I'm talking about. You can have gratuitous violence, or you can have theater of the mind and still achieve the same effect, and sometimes better with theater of the mind. It's all in the execution. It's all in the writing. It's all in the presentation. And sometimes it's better the other way, especially when it's a subject matter like Cuties. And so, that's how I know. This isn't a movie that is just a regular movie that I haven't seen, where it's just a regular narrative. There's just, and I'm giving an opinion on a movie that I just haven't seen. I don't need to see this movie to know that I don't want to see 11-year-old girl actors exploited and sexualized. And nobody, and I certainly wasn't, and hopefully nobody in the chat was suggesting that Joanna from Canada, does feel the need to see that. She wasn't saying that at all. Let's get that straight. Joanna from Canada was not saying that at all. But I'm talking about myself. I don't need to see that to know that how I'm going to feel about that, even up against the rest of the narrative. But that's me. Steve McCoy says, I support their message, but there's so many other ways to get it across that would be more effective and wouldn't upset people than how they're doing it now. That's all I'm saying. I agree. Steve, I think that, yes, I totally agree. 100%. Cobra Dojo sends in a £2 super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, Dave, isn't this just the Lolita debate rehashed? Well, I mean, there's parallels, but I wouldn't say it's exactly the same. Johnny T says, hey, Dave, because I can't discuss today's topic, I'm going off topic. From your perspective as a Canadian, where would you and what do you remember about the 9/11, the day that 9/11 occurred? Great question. I would say, well, I was when 9/11 occurred, I was 22. I had gone back to Welland, Ontario, which is just outside Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, to visit some college friends. And I was having breakfast, and it was about 8:30 in the morning, and I had gone up to the counter to pay, and on the TV was the World Trade Center. And it was CNN, and it was only one tower had been hit, and there was the smoke was coming from the World Trade Center, and they were saying a plane had hit the tower, and I was like, oh my God, wow, holy snap and crap, right? And then I paid for the thing, and we left, and we were driving back to my friend's house, I guess. It was in the area, and we had the radio on, and we had Howard Stern on. And I don't know how we had Howard Stern on, because it's not like we had satellite radio. So this must have been before, I guess they were bringing in the feed from Stern or something on this one particular station. I don't know. Anyways, it was 2001. And at that moment, I guess another plane had already hit the tower in the time that we were like getting out to the car to drive. And at that point, like the Pentagon had been hit. And I remember turning to my friend being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck? Of course, we got back to their place and we turned on the TV and we're watching it live. And I watched the tower fall live on TV. And I was like, oh my God. It was like, holy shit. So yeah, that's kind of what I remember from that day, is just I was visiting old friends from college. And not old friends. I mean, I had just left college the year prior, but college friends. And that's where I was. I was having breakfast, having my eggs and bacon in a restaurant at like 8:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. And I had gone up to the counter to pay, and it was on the TV. I'll never forget it. I forgot the name of the restaurant, though. I don't know what the name of the restaurant was, or even if it's still there. I mean, this is nearly 20 years ago. So, but yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was. And that's right. Yeah, today is 9/11. It wasn't lost on me. It wasn't lost on me, but I needed to tackle this subject because I think it's important. And again, I want to be very clear and say that I do agree with the underlining message that is in the movie. And I also understand that there are some people that it might, the overly sexualized scenes with the young girls, again, it may not affect other people as much as it affects other people. And I think it's also very important to know that just because it may not affect you in a certain way that it affects others, doesn't mean that you condone it. I think that's very important. And I think, again, I don't know if Joanna from Canada was verbally attacked in the chat room. I hope she wasn't, because I'd like to think that we are better than that here. And Joanna from Canada agrees 100% that that's not appropriate at all. So yeah, so let's just make sure that is on the table for sure. But yeah, a crazy time. Darren Sand says, I was busy trying to recall the Spider-Man 2 Twin Towers trailer from cinemas. Oh, right. Yes, I remember that. I remember they had to do that because of that whole thing. Jay Camacho says, on 9/11, I was in freshman year of high school, and I just remembered that we were told not to turn on the TV, and we were asked if our parents worked at the Pentagon to see those who worked at the Pentagon to see the principal. Wow, very interesting. Very, very, very cool. Josh McGrath says, when we are young, we look to heroes like Cap America, etc., and are inspired to inherit their qualities when we grow up. So this film feels broken because the question is, what will the film project onto kids? Yeah, I think I think that's it too, is that some people have said, who's the demographic for? What's the demographic of this movie? Because 11-year-old children, and again, I have not seen the movie, but from what I've read, and I've read a lot about it to get a real general thought on this, it sounds like a very intense movie. It's an intense drama. It doesn't sound like the kind of movie that 11-year-old children would generally be into. Do you know what I mean? So you could say, well, this is for the parents, or it's for the parents of these kids to warn them not to. Okay, I think that's more likely, that it's more likely for the parents. But, and I'm not a parent, and I only speak for myself. But as a 41-year-old man, I feel uncomfortable. And I felt very uncomfortable watching that clip. Now, I was watching that clip, admittedly, in a vacuum. But I know, like I've said, that I have no doubt that I would agree with everything else. But when it comes to that, I would feel very uncomfortable watching it. There isn't a scenario where I wouldn't feel uncomfortable watching it, no matter how well they did on selling me the other bag of goods. And again, I feel sad because I feel, I don't believe that the director of the movie and the writer of the movie is necessarily, she's trying to exploit children. I don't necessarily believe that. I think her intentions may have been good, but this is her first feature film debut, and maybe somebody didn't say, hey, maybe we should rethink this a little bit. These are kids, And again, I know that they wanted shocking, right? But it can go one of two ways. It can be shocking where people are like, oh, fuck, yeah. Or it can go the other way. And unfortunately, in this hyper-sexualized world we live in now, it tends to go the other way with people. And hopefully I've brought I did rant and rave there too, but hopefully I brought a balanced approach to this. And again, I know I haven't seen the movie, but I've done as deep of a dive as anyone could without seeing the movie to get a pretty good idea of what this movie is about. And I think I've been very fair. I have acknowledged that it does sound like there is some real good shit in this movie. It does sound like that. There's a real good message there. You know, I've acknowledged that. And I think if I was just reading headlines and Facebook comments, I wouldn't say that. I would just get on here going, ah, you know what I mean? And I did that, part of it, because of what I saw and what I read, but I'm trying to be balanced and fair with a very controversial topic. And I would like to believe I've done a pretty good job of that. But you'll let me know. Johnny T says, thank God you got out, Lauren Downing. Unfortunately for me, I missed the last bus before they shut down transportation, so I was stuck there to witness it. Luckily, I'm be safe. Oh, really? Let's see. Lauren Downing, where are you, Lauren? What did you say here? Lauren, keep that Lauren going. Oh, there's Lauren. They started evacuating every building over 10 floors and people were rushing to get out of the city. I had to get off the train halfway through the trip and wait for a return trip to get back home. Oh, amazing. So you were like in the epicenter. I mean, you were going through it. So glad you're okay, Lauren. So glad you're okay. Simon says, hi, Dave. Have you seen the movie Leon? Yes, I was just talking about that. There was some controversy at the time regarding Natalie Portman's role in the movie, and that came out in 1994. How do you think it would be received in 2020? Well, I was actually talking about Leon, of course, the American title, The Professional, or Leon the Professional. I love that movie. I really, really do. And of course, you again, let me say again, I am not comparing Leon to Cuties. And even the message in Cuties. The message in Cuties, I think, is a noble one. I really do. And I think the intent there is very important. And you guys know me. I am a stickler for context and intent, you know, and I think that is very important. We cannot lose sight of that, which is why I think I have been fairly fair and balanced in this show today. But yes, there were some things that Natalie was doing as a 13 or 14-year-old girl at the time, and what they got her to do that I felt uncomfortable watching. Now, Leon, you know, rejects her advances, of course, because, you know, for obvious reasons. But it was a little kind of strange. Even watching it today, and I watched it a couple of years ago, I guess, showed it to my girlfriend. She loved it. And I love that movie. But I think, yeah, I if that movie had come out today, yes, I think because of the hyper sensationalism of our society today, yes, I think there would be even more, I don't want to say backlash, but there would be more issues with Leon the Professional today than there was 26 years ago. And it's for similar reasons. Now, Leon the Professional doesn't have the very important message that Cutie obviously does. But it's just unfortunate. And that's why I began the show today by saying, you know, as an independent filmmaker, as an artist, as somebody who works in the industry, it frustrates me because I think, why would you do that? You're getting... There's this really important, and again, it's rhetorical because the why is clearly because they want it to be shocking. They do want it to shock you, but it's shocking people in the wrong ways. Not everybody. There's probably a lot of people that have watched it. I mean, it's got over 8. What's it got right now on Rotten Tomatoes? Let me just see here. Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 88%. 88% approval on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 3% as an audience score. I know Rotten Tomatoes was trying to curve that. I think you can't, as far as I know, you can't comment on a movie unless you prove that you've seen it. Like you have to upload a ticket stub or something or a receipt or something. I don't know if they've done that with this or if they're still doing that. But if they're not doing that with this, then here's me being balanced. I don't put much stock into that audience score. because I know that there are people that just read headlines, that just read Facebook comments, and that just go, right? If I was reviewing Cuties, here's me being balanced. If I was reviewing Cuties, and I think a lot of people probably have this struggle. I think there are, out of those 34 critics, and I don't want to speak for them, but it wouldn't surprise me if out of those 34 critics, a lot of them feel a struggle because they've seen the movie and they go, well, fuck, that's a really good message. A lot of this movie is really good. But Jesus, fuck, did you have to... Do you know what I mean? And maybe that's why it's got a higher score. Because remember, a positive tomato score doesn't mean that everybody gave it a 10 out of 10. I believe you can give a movie a 2.5 out of 10, or no, a 3 out of 5 and a 6.5 or something out of 10, and that still counts as a positive score. So if you don't know how Rotten Tomatoes works, brush up on your Rotten Tomatoes knowledge, and you'll understand that you could give something a 6 out of 10 and it still gets a tomato. I stand to be corrected, but it's not like in order to give something a positive score, you have to give it a 10 out of 10. You don't. You don't. If you give something like a 6 out of 10 or something, your little thing will have a tomato beside it. Something like that. So, again, it frustrates me. I have no issues with what sounds like to be a very good message in that movie. I just have issues with some of the packaging. That's all. American Turkey Burger says, Dave, do you think that Charlie Bowles will be the killer in Scream 5? Obviously being satirical. I don't know, man. Maybe he will. Maybe Charlie Bowles will be the killer in Scream 5. I have no idea. That's right. Neve Campbell returned. I uploaded a video yesterday, of course, talking about Neve Campbell being back, and she is back. But she's been back for quite a while. How these things work is obviously when you enter into contract negotiations, that sometimes can take a bit. And sometimes studios, they want to release that information at certain times because it is part of the marketing of a movie per se. So, again, I obviously was not part of the negotiations, but I would imagine that Neve Campbell has been back for several months. It's just that the information is being made official yesterday. So, yeah, she's been back for a while. But it's good to get the confirmation anyway. And that's what we have. Paul Williams says, hey, everyone, I can't stay, but I wanted to stop by to speak. Well, Paul, speak away. Gypsy Warrior says, Dave, do you think perhaps there is a more insidious audience this film is trying to target? That's going down the conspiratorial route. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that the unfortunate dark side of this is that you will have pedophiles who will watch this movie because of that. You will have pedophiles that will buy this movie because of the girls being sexualized in this movie. You will. It's inevitable. Listen, I'm not a pedophile, but if I were, I'd be all over that like a fat kid on a Smartie, like they say. And why wouldn't you be? If you are a pedophile, that's like a gift from heaven. Why would you? Don't care about the fucking message. You don't care about all the other good fucking awesome stuff that maybe is in that movie, right? You don't care about that. Or that clearly sounds like it's in that movie. You just fast forward to fucking the girls going, "Bachka, bachka, bachka," and have that on repeat. Fucking whacking off to that. And listen, I know it might make you feel uncomfortable to hear me say that, but that's the reality. You know it and I know it. You know that there are going to be guys out there that are going to be doing that. So yeah, it's a little sick and unfortunate. And I wouldn't want to subject my daughters to that potentiality. I understand the message. Nobody's arguing that. I'm certainly not arguing that. But if I had an 11-year-old daughter, that's not a position I'd want to put her in, because I would say to them, listen, I agree with your message here. but I don't want my daughter to be directed to twerk and to come on to older. I don't. She's 11. She should be doing 11-year-old roles. She should be an 11-year-old girl doing 11-year-old girl roles. And then you could argue and say, but that's what 11-year-olds are doing. Yes, but there are other ways to present that. There are other ways. You can do a narrative film with 11-year-old actors, and there are other ways to get the message across. There are other ways. That's how I feel about it. And it can be just as shocking, just as effective, and maybe even more effective and more shocking because you have an audience now that will watch it and not complain about it and watch it and go, damn, that was fucking good. And not get caught up into watching, sometimes less is more. Most of the time, less is more. Awoken Nightmare says, the only shocking thing that Scream 5 could do that would actually excite me is to have Ghostface win in the end. Yeah, I presented an idea yesterday, where I said, what if the voice you hear on the phone is actually somebody else? It's not all these other people that are, doing the phone changer or the voice changer. He actually is somebody who's been pulling the strings the entire time. And I saw some people make some memes about, Emperor Palpatine and stuff and make that joke. I can understand that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Because he's always been there. Like Palpatine hasn't been there, right? It was shoehorned in. Ghostface has always been there. That voice has always been there. And I just thought how cool it would be if all of a sudden that is actually a real person. And I don't think it would necessarily retcon anything because if you're smart, you would tie it into the entire series, But the reason why I presented that controversial idea was because what else are you going to fucking do? I can already tell you what what is this movie going to be? Scream 5. Okay, it's 10 years later from Scream 4. There are new kids that are obsessed with horror movies, but there are new kids that are obsessed with how horror movies are today. So there's new rules and regulations. You know what I mean? So, they're going to be into that. And then maybe Sidney Prescott has a daughter, who's young and who's getting into it. Or maybe they said it like 15 years later. So the daughter can be of age where she's like a teenager, right? Because if you said it like 10 years later, she'd only be like 10 or 9 or 8, right? So that's what we do. And then she gets involved, and then Sydney and Dewey and Gail, they're thrusted back in, right? Trying to figure what's going on. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen it. So now it's Dewey's son that's, it's like we've seen this. And I really think that, and I understand the balance that you need, which is if you're going to do a Scream 5, okay, you want to introduce something new, but you don't want to also destroy the DNA of Scream. And I understand that. Scream has a very specific kind of DNA that Friday, Elm Street, and Halloween don't have. I get it. But as Frank has often said too, there's no point in doing any more. Yeah, there's no point in doing any more of any of them. Anyway. But if you are going to do, which they are, what is it going to be about? Is it a passing of the torch? Because here's the thing. When people hear that legacy characters are returning, you may not think of this consciously, but you don't want them to be passing the torch. When it was announced that Han, Luke, and Leia were coming back, 40-year-old fanboys like me were like, oh, they're coming back. It's like, well, yeah, but is this hey, Nev is back. David Arquette is back. Courtney Cox is back. Well, yes, but how are they back? Is this a la Star Wars sequel trilogy kind of thing? And then what's the story? What else can you do other than there's a new set of kids that are in horror movies? But horror movies have evolved and changed, right? So the rules have evolved and changed. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. So the rules have evolved and changed. So it's another new decade, more new rules. you know, and then Sydney's lured back somehow because she's got to come back because she's the OG, you know. There you go. There's Scream 5. Like I say, you know, I don't know. That's why I said maybe Ghostface has been a real person the whole time. Hello, Sydney. I mean, maybe that's actually a person and not the people you see doing the killing. And maybe he's been pulling the strings, indoctrinating people. You know, how? Now, again, the details of that, I don't know. How you connect it to the first, second, and third and fourth movies, I don't know. Those are the things you need to flesh out. But just that concept that now the real Ghostface, I mean, he's always been real, but I just mean like the guy on the phone finally dons the costume and goes after them. That's interesting to me. And you can still keep the DNA of Scream there and bring it into the 21st century. Well, they already did, but into the 2020s, let's say. You know? But yeah, I don't know what else you can do. Like, I don't know what else you can do that isn't going to be Scream 4 again, but just in a new decade. That's basically what I'm saying. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. Did I miss any other super chats? Let me just see. I don't think I did. Cobra Dojo was the last one. Yes, Cobra Dojo's the last one. Hopefully Joanna from Canada is okay. If you're still watching, Joanna, you are awesome. So hopefully you are okay and cooler heads can prevail from, again, I don't know if anybody was coming at you in the chat room, but hopefully nobody was because Joanna from Canada is great. Nick P was here and says, hey, Ed, I think your statement is a bit more generalized than mine. I guess you're talking to somebody else in the chat. I live in an era with a lot of people in an area, with a lot of people, and my brother has been in the public elementary and high school system in a long time. I guess you guys are talking amongst each other, which is always great. That's great to see. Josh McGrath says, Dave, should the Ghostface design stay the same for Scream 5? And also, should this real Ghostface that you mentioned be a bit supernatural? Should he be more intimidating and less clumsy? That's a good question. No, I don't think he should be like supernatural. But yeah, and should the design on the Ghostface mask change? No, I mean, the DNA of the mask should still be the same. I mean, maybe you make it a bit longer, maybe. I would like to see that. I think there's one of the films they went a bit shorter in the mouth, and I always think it looks creepier when the mouth is much longer. Maybe bring a bit more of a hook to it, maybe, or something. That might be kind of interesting. But the mask has got to stay the same. I mean, it's you don't want to start fucking around with that. In terms of a supernatural element, no, I don't think so. I think he should be, I mean, maybe you plant that sort of kind of idea a little bit, but it doesn't turn out like he is supernatural. You know what I mean? But maybe this guy, whoever this guy is on the phone, obviously it's Roger Jackson, I believe is the voice actor's name that does the voice. And maybe you do get him. I don't know if he'd have any interest in doing it, but maybe you do get him. You know, maybe he actually, you do get him to do it. I don't know. But this sounds like more of like a thing that you would do to end the series. And you know me, I'm always trying to figure out ways to end things because they never seem to end things properly. My idea is really more about like Scream 5's like the final battle. And it doesn't really sound like that's what they want to do. It sounds like they want to, that this is sort of a soft reboot. They want to kind of start a new series. And that's why I'm kind of like, I think Nev, Courtney, and David are not going to, like, you're not really wanting to start a new series with them, are you? Like the first movie, okay. But if you want to Scream 5 and 6 and 7, which is likely not to happen, they'll probably call it Scream 5 and then they'll go like Scream Resurrection, Scream Redemption. You know how that goes. Fuck. But yeah, so for me, my idea was just like Scream 5 ends it all. You know what I mean? Because you wouldn't want to introduce him as the real guy. And although maybe you can, but I don't know. But yes, he would be less clumsy. He would be fucking like very scary. Very scary. But again, you want a little bit of that cheekiness and self-awareness in Scream because that's part of the DNA as well, right? It's a balance. All right, a couple more minutes here. And then I have to skedaddle. I have It's Me Billy stuff that I'm doing this afternoon. That's why I was late. I was sending some messages back and forth, so my apologies. Let me see here. What do we got? Foxy News, Bad Women, says, let me be the killer. I'd go for Dewey and Gail and Sydney first. I would be okay if they all die. I really would. Sydney's the one that I think would have the most. I think out of the big three, right? Out of the big three, obviously Dewey and Gail are more expendable than Sydney. Although I don't think Sydney is not expendable. It's not that characters die, it's how characters die. I truly believe that horror audiences are smart enough. I want to believe this, that horror audiences are smart enough that, you can kill off important characters. It's how you do it. You want to give them their moments. You want to give them their moments to shine. They go out in a blaze of glory, so to speak, right? And I think as long as it's done with respect and dignity to the character, I think fans will be okay with it. What you don't want is a cheap, chintzy way of somebody going out. It's why I was okay with Han Solo and his death, because there's a lot more going on in that scene than just whiny Kylo Ren killing his dad. There's a lot of layers there. There's a lot of symbolism there. I've talked about that many times on my channel. I didn't want Han Solo to die. He's my favorite Star Wars character. Harrison Ford's my favorite actor. I didn't want him to die, but I understood and I was okay. It was tough to watch. Oh, fuck, that was tough to watch. But I was okay with it because it served the story. It served Ren's arc. And then came The Last Jedi. But anyway, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with all of them going. As long as they don't go and hey, there's a bomb in the house. The house blows up. Oh my God, all three of them were in there. It's like, lame. I don't want that. I definitely don't want that. Let me see here. Let me just, I have to get something. 1 second here, guys. No. I want to get something. Sorry, I have to just hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. And it would be that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. And let me go back to, yeah, okay, we're good. We're good. Just want to make sure I had something all worked out. Okay, let's see here. Gary Rangel says, Dave, Nev Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox were contracted for a new trilogy, but ultimately canceled by the Weinsteins. I can see them for one more movie. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Oh, I mean, I don't think all three of them will die in this movie. I mean, that would be because you would have to, they would all have to, unless you have them grouped together in a house with the house exploding, you would have to spend the time to give each one of them the character's justice. If they're actually dying, not fake Marvel dying, actually dying, you would want to spend time and nurture each character's death. And that could take a lot of screen time and a lot of time in the narrative for one movie. But it would not surprise me if somebody goes in this movie. And if I was a betting man, I would bet that David Arquette's character is going to go. I think between Dewey, Gale, and Nev, I think I would pick Dewey to go. I think he might go in this movie. And Nev and Courtney survive. And then, maybe Courtney goes in the next one or something like that. That's kind of how I feel anyway. But we'll see. We shall see. All right, folks, that is going to do it for me here on episode 101 of McRae Live. I want to thank my moderators, Frank Riker, Tab of the Shore, Darren Sands, and Jason Knight for doing what you guys do. You guys are amazing. Thank you to the super chats that came in as well. I really appreciate that very, very much. And Frank's giving me a lot of mean faces. Did I miss a super chat, Frank? Oh no. Oh, Frank, yes. Frank, my man. He sends in a $2 super chat, says, for the sexy MFers in the chat, I hate Scream. We love you, Frank. We love you. And thank you for doing that, because whenever you do those big mean faces, I always know I missed a super chat. So really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for tuning in and, discussing this controversial topic. Of course, I think we can do it maturely and responsibly, and balanced, which is what I try to do here on this show. So hopefully you felt the same way as well. But I will be back on Monday night at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So make sure you tune into that. And then, of course, over the weekend, I'll let you know what movie we are watching. That'll do it for me. You guys are amazing, but you already know that. Thank you so much. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty. Cheers.